Ahmed Warsame, who's been talking about building cowpea genetic resources to improve food security and climate resilience in Somalia. Dr. Warsame grew up in Somalia during the civil war and considers himself among the few of his generation who had the opportunity to access formal education. He completed his undergraduate studies at the University of Gadaref in Sudan and earned a master's degree from the University of Nairobi. Later awarded a scholarship to pursue a PhD in crop science at the University of Reading, followed by postdoctoral research at John Innes Centre, obviously not far from here, and he is currently a fellow of the Crop Science Centre. The collaborative funding that Dr. Warsame has received is through the MasterCard Foundation and the University of Cambridge Climate Resilience and Sustainability Research Fund, where he's currently collaborating with Zamzam University in Somalia to help rebuild cowpea genetic diversity in post-Civil War Somalia. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ahmed Warsame, and first of all, I would like to thank Cambridge Africa for organizing an invitation. And I first of all want to echo what many African scholars felt after they have completed their studies here in UK. Came with a different scholarship, but I had felt the same thing of now I have completed my PhD here in UK. I had the opportunity. I have heavy responsibility on my shoulders. I need to change everything in Africa. I felt a heavy responsibility. But the dilemma was, as many other people said, was what if I went back now? I'm from Somalia, so if I went to Somalia, what am I going to do? What are the resources? So that was a big challenge, and was very lucky that I got a fellowship at the University of Cambridge, and really a big thank to Professor Giles Aldright, who really understood what I was trying to say, saying, I want to do something specific to my country, but I want to be based here and do something while I'm here, but directed to my country. So that is how I got here. So going back to our work, so building cowpea genetic resources for food security and climate resilience in Somalia. That's a project, part of our work. For those of you who may not have seen cowpea, this is what I'm talking about, a legume crop, very important in Africa. Very important in Africa. Mainly the production is Nigeria. Those from Nigeria are familiar with the crop, and Niger. So generally West Africa is where this crop is important. So over 200 million people in Africa, this crop, cowpea, is an important source of their protein. But why more specifically about Somalia? Somalia is a country had very big issue with their food security. Last time, a functioning government was in place was over 40 years ago, and all the research for agriculture, institution for agriculture research completely collapsed. And then my background is working on legumes and improving their nutritional quality. So then it was natural to work on cowpea, which is a legume crop. It is, I can say, the only adapted legume crop to Somalia's arid and semi-arid conditions. It is important, and it complements the cereal-based diets in Somalia. Mainly, people consume sorghum, maize, and also rice. And I was growing up every night. Cowpea mixed with rice was the dish, literally every night. So it was that important. Also, it is important for other crops, cereals basically, because it is intercropped and it is the only source of nitrogen for the soil. So the big challenge in Somalia was where to start from, because last time a cultivar or variety was released in Somalia was 40 years ago. In 1986 was the last time a cultivar of cowpea was released to the farmers. So you can understand the huge challenge. So the work that is funded through Cambridge Africa and MasterCard funding fits into this bigger overview of my work in Somalia. So we started with interviewing farmers in Somalia in different locations so that we understand what are the main issues faced by farmers in Somalia. And I'm sure earlier there was a reference to Africans to define the research questions. And I think I can argue that this was an example where farmers defined the things that they wanted our project to focus on. So once we understood what were the main challenge, then, and by the way, the QR code is expired, so don't worry if it didn't work for you. So after we identified what are the main challenges, then the next step was to collect the germplasm accessions that we want to use for our program. So we focused on what are the currently available genetic materials. So we had to collect from 60 sites in Somalia and get samples of cowpea. And then we also looked at the old collection. So before the collapse of central government in Somalia, before the civil war, there were collections of cowpea. I'm talking about before 1989. So we looked all the databases and we got samples from the US, from Australia, and obviously from Nigeria, the IITA Institute. And we also enriched a global collection. So we added different varieties in places that share similar climate characteristics with Somalia. So we specifically focused on accessions or cultivars that were drought tolerant, disease resistant, and also pest resistant as well. So the next step, once we put all these materials together, the next step was now to evaluate the performance of the materials. So we look for agronomic traits, how do they perform in the field, and also the drought tolerance, nutritional quality. So at the end of this project, we hope that we be able to identify materials, so like accessions or new varieties of cowpea, which can be fast-tracked and can be distributed to the farmers. But if you don't, at the end of the project, we don't get that, we can identify parent lines, so genetic materials that you can combine their different characteristics so that we can obtain new varieties in the future. But also these materials will be available for conservation as well, because this is the first time after the civil war, such materials have been put together. So just a quick to emphasize is through our surveys, we got, what are the main problems. And as you expect, like a country like Somalia, drought was the biggest problem and also the diseases. So our collaboration with Zamzam University in Somalia now facilitated, now putting all these materials into the field in Somalia. You expect now we are based in Cambridge, so putting cowpea in Cambridge doesn't make sense. So that is what the Cambridge Africa and MasterCard funded project facilitated. So obviously you can see cowpea with drip irrigation, and there is a big reason. Somalia, there is a huge unpredictability in the weather, and these were contingencies, and thank goodness we were very lucky that we put that, because we didn't have, we had very little rain during that season. I see the time is running very fast. I don't know what's going on, but basically, so this is the first season that we put our materials together, and you can see the new Somali collection, old collection, and the global collection. And this is just quick overview of the genetic diversity. But what I want you to look at is basically this step where now we were selecting two things. We are saying we want a variety which has high yielding but also early flowering, which means can escape and can fit into the ever shortening growing season. And we actually got some candidates that can be taken forward. But also we added, because we said drought is a major problem, we added drought tolerance, and this is a work that we have been doing with my MPhil student. And you can see here also, this is drought tolerance screening at early stage, and those at the top in the green color, these are accessions that were really drought tolerant. So now we add that into our selection criteria. You can see some few lines here, good in the field in Somalia, but also good for drought tolerance. And on top of that, we also added the quality, because it is very important that the cultivar fits the consumer preference. So color is very important for smallholder farmers. So we quantified that, and we also add that into the criteria. And you see still there is a winner, TVU 1280 from Tanzania, also really became at the top. And that's the importance of, including external materials. So at the moment, these are the next steps, looking at the nutritional quality. We have done the whole genome sequencing for our materials, and very soon we will know how Somali cowpea fits within the bigger picture of cowpea diversity. And also, we are planning to do more field trials, drought tolerance screening, and disease resistance for the elite lines that we have identified through this project. And thank you very much. I can't imagine it. It's no time.